Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. This is the continuation of the SBL paper, the Specimen 2018 paper, the Specimen 1. So in video 1 I have explained, like I have shown a demo. We went through all the requirements and then I showed how to highlight the keywords from the background and how to allocate the time and all. In this video we are going to go through all the exhibits, exhibit 1 to 6. We are going to read and go through and calculate how much time will it take. I will try to finish this around 40 to 45 minutes, but it might take a little more time because I have to explain, right? But try to finish this between 40 to 45 minutes when you read at home, right? And for the ones who haven't seen my video 1, the part 1 of this, please check part 1 before you proceed to part 2. Don't watch this video if you haven't watched the part 1 of this video, because we'll not understand anything. You need to understand that. So now let's proceed, and the exhibit 1 is in front of you. Now let's read exhibit 1. I'm going to teach you how to read exhibits, how to stop, how to highlight, when to know, how to read effective with the time. And one more thing, when you're reading exhibits, read in order. Don't try to jump between exhibits to exhibits. For example, you're starting with exhibit 1, then you feel like exhibit 2 is kind of boring and all, you just skip and then you go and read exhibit 3 and then you again come back to 2. Don't do that. Don't keep jumping. Read in one order, right? Read 1 to 6 in order, right? Because when you read all the exhibits, right, when you go to the second exhibit, 80% of what you have read in exhibit 1 you will forget. So you cannot take a chance. You have to highlight the keywords and you have to write also. For example, this exhibit 1, okay, this is for requirement 1, if I'm not wrong. Okay, let me go up and show. Let's see if that's what is. Yes, that's for 1, an analysis of the industry and the market, right? So I've highlighted in that video. Okay, it was highlighted, but now this I have taken the fresh, so that's why you will not see the highlights. But no worries, from time to time I will show you what are the things I've highlighted. All right, so now let's start. Exhibit 1, background report to the DCS companies. You will always be giving this kind of report, right? At least one report you'll be given about the background of the company. So the subject is the organizational overview, the external environment, DCS business model. Very important that you read what is the subject of the report, because based on the subject you will know what is there further in that report. So now let's read the organizational overview. Okay, so Data Communication System, a publicly listed company and the small companies capitalization index of a national stock exchange, used to be privately owned high technology company. Stop. There are two things. What are the two things? One, it is a publicly listed company. Very important that you know what type of company it is. Is it a private company? Is it a public company? Is it an NGO? It is a charity? You have to know. And then it is a which industry? High technology company. Again, very important. Established in 1997 by computer engineer Java Preya. So Java Preya is a computer engineer. Okay. Due to rapid expansion over the following years, DCS needed to source additional capital to fund its future growth and was floated on the National Stock Exchange in 2006. Okay. This allowed Java to realize his majority shareholding in the private company. 30% of the flotation was purchased by institutional investors. Okay, and DCS also borrowed long-term funds to leverage the newly issued share capital. Okay, what can you understand from this? You can understand that they have given the kind of stakeholders. Okay, so 30% of the flotation was purchased by institutional investors. So you can say this is one kind of stakeholders. Okay, and TCS also borrowed long-term funds to leverage the newly issued share capital. So they have borrowed. Very important. Okay, the lender. So they are the stakeholder to leverage the newly issued share capital. Before flotation, the company was almost exclusively financed from the founders' share capital, retained earnings, and short-term finance. So you can see before flotation. Very important that you know what are the how the structure of the company is before and after flotation. I think there's a question also. I think question three, requirement for question 3. I think they asked about before and after flotation. So I have highlighted it, right? Now can you understand why I have read the requirements first and then the exhibits? Because now I know what I'm searching for in the exhibits. I have read the requirements. I know they asked a question. I think question 3. Let me go and show you the question 3. Yes, I think this one. 3A, using appropriate stakeholder analysis, evaluate how relative performance of the following three stakeholders group and strategy for engaging with them should have changed after DCS company became a public limited company. Right? Yeah. So professional skills marks for available analytical skills for assessing power and interest and how to engage with the stakeholders before and after flotation. Very important. See, I have remembered. So even if you have forgot the requirements when you are reading the exhibits, there is no harm. You can always go back and check your requirements and come back to the exhibits and see, right? After every sentence, stop, keep a pause and highlight the keywords if there's a keyword, right? It's not necessary that everything you have to highlight or everything which is given there is very, very important. There are some things just for your knowledge is given, right? You might not need that piece of information anywhere in the answer. Okay, now let's go to the external environment. Very, very important because they asked a question to analyze. Okay. Okay. So DCS has its headquarters in Trident. Now you see this kind of information is not very important. Okay, so its headquarters in Trident, a prosperous, developed nation with a stable and a well-established political system, and which has highly developed labor laws, including a national minimum wage and a newly introduced obligatory contributory pension scheme. Can you see? There are so many things to highlight here. In fact, I can highlight the whole sentence because it's saying me something about that environment. The government is established, it's stable, they're having a highly developed labor laws. All these are saying me so much about it. So let me highlight the whole thing. Okay. The government, like many governments worldwide, has invested heavily in a national telecommunication infrastructure, which has led to a significant growth in social media, and where virtually 75% of the population are connected to the internet through a range of devices using mobile technology. How many percent? 70. You need numbers. Never underestimate the power of numbers. You need numbers. Whenever numbers are given, use the numbers to your 100% you can. The more numbers you use, the more attractive your answer becomes to the examiner. Always use the number, never underestimate the power. That number is given for some reason, right? When you mix the number with the theory, when you try to explain something using numbers, it's an evidence, it's kind of an evidence. Your answer becomes very authoritative. It brings a clarity to your answer, right? Because you're not saying something based on your own opinion. You're justifying. It's an objective evaluation. So always try to use number whenever it's given. So 75% of the power. Okay. So they are saying that government has invested in what? National telecommunication infrastructure. Okay, significant. There's a significant growth in social media. Okay, connect to internet. Cool. So the government is also proposing a new Carbon tax, which will affect companies. Which will affect companies? Can you see government is stakeholder here? Which manufacture and provide IT network service such as data communication components and system. So the government imposing new carbon tax again is very important. Let me highlight this also. Invested heavily in national telecommunication infrastructure. Okay. The electronic and IT industry has recently been identified as a sector with an increasing carbon footprint caused by their applications, such as component cooling devices, complex telecommunication network components, and cloud computing technology. So, this is an industry with an increasing carbon footprint. Okay, sector with don't spend too much of time thinking what should I highlight, what is the keywords and all, right? Just whatever you feel in the exam, under the exam condition, whatever you feel is important, you highlight. Why you have to highlight? Because you need that information later, so that is visible to you. It's very easy for you to identify. For that reason, you are highlighting. Just because you are not highlighting something does not mean that piece of information is not relevant or not important. But when you try to highlight everything or underline everything, then it doesn't make any sense. You don't know what is important. You don't know what is relevant from the things which is less relevant. And then you start panicking, right? Thinking what to take in your answer and what not to take in the answer. So that's why I told you practice. It needs practice. It's not a one-day thing. Okay. Although DCS company, I'm reading here. Although DCS company can approximately estimate its total carbon footprint from the manufacture and the supply of components from its factory, it has not yet developed formal systems and processes to manage its carbon footprint through the value chain. It hasn't developed, okay, has not yet developed formal system and process to manage its carbon footprint throughout the value chain. So this is a limitation, right? Now let's go to the business model. DCS has two distinct product service areas. This was given in the introduction itself. Okay. One is data communication component manufacture and the supply and the maintenance of network management system, including technical support. No need to highlight this. I have already highlighted this in introduction. Or if you haven't highlighted in the introduction, you can come and highlight here, right? Because of the same information which is repeated here. Okay, so the DCS employees are a mixture of, now they are going to say how the employees are. Okay, so the DCS employees are a mixture of technically qualified engineers working in R&D, factory staff manufacturing, assembling product, IT sales and service support team. Okay, since the flotation of the company, 60% of the production employees in the data communication component factory joined a merger trade union. Very wait, this is a key. This is a piece of information which you need later. So let me highlight it. Okay, in 2012, okay, the country suffered an economic downturn, which led many companies to postpone technological investment, and by then DCS employed 150 full-time employees. So what happened in 2012? You need this piece of information because remember you have to compare from 2012 to 15 for 3 years. This is a financial information. You need this. The companies of an economic downturn. Okay. Employed full-time employees. Full-time employees. Okay. So the main revenue source for DCS is the high volume, low cost data communication. Why am I emphasizing this? You have to know the revenue source. What is the revenue? How they are charging? How are they getting revenue? This is a high volume, low cost model. Data communication component manufacture part of the business and it has a 1% of the total market share. What is the percentage of market share? 1% only. Which accounts for approximately 65% of the DCS total turnover. 65%. DCS mainly sells and supplies large volumes of data communication components to original equipment manufacturers. Right? Mainly sells and supplies. So 30% of which are based outside Prydain on a continent which has a single currency and is devaluing against the Prydain dollar. Right? Success in the data communication component sector comes from the economic of scale, achieved by producing high volumes. Can you see? This is an industry where if you want to achieve an economies of scale, you have to produce in high volumes of reliable components and keeping prices low. So I am not highlighting this again because already I've highlighted high volume, low cost in the beginning of this paragraph. So DCS company has achieved. Can you see? I am not repeating. Once I've highlighted one point, that's it. Again, if it's repeated, I'm not highlighting 2, 3, 4 times, only once. Because you don't want to overdo, you don't want to highlight too much. So DCS company has achieved this. Okay, I'm reading from here. DCS company has achieved this despite producing components in a country where there's a significant employment legislation setting minimum wage rates and condition. Okay, now let's go to this. The second product area is much smaller and is based on supply and demand contracts for specialized IT management network management system mainly to domestic medium-sized enterprises, which currently yields a relatively higher gross profit margin than the data communication component product. I'm not going to highlight the whole thing. Already I've highlighted this in the introduction that the second product area is smaller and they sell to the domestic medium-sized enterprise. So second time I'm not highlighting it, but what's important is this one. Relatively higher gross profit than data communication component. This is the keyword here. Even though it's small product area, still the gross profit margin is higher than the major one, the data communication. So the key aspect of the second product area is the installation, right? Installation and the support of big data analytics capability along with cloud computing storage. Which can be used to replace existing costly IT architecture such as unsophisticated data warehouse to allow business clients to collect and analyze more targeted and timely data about their own customers and purchasing patterns. Much of this can be obtained from data held within social and business networking software. So the key thing of this second is installation and support of big data capabilities. Can you see exhibit 1 I'm done. Now let's go to exhibit 2. So this is a transcript and don't think that all the exhibits will take same amount of time. For example, there are 6 exhibits and you are let's say you are taking 45 minutes for the 6 exhibits. You might divide 45 by 6 and will allocate that each exhibit might take around 7.5 minutes. Don't do that because some exhibits are very small. Some exhibits will take less time and some exhibits take more time. For example, numbers and all will take very less time. But where you have more of description and theory, you need more time, right? So allocate your time, your reading time appropriately, accordingly. Okay, so now let's go to exhibit 2. Exhibit 2 is a transcript. This is how a transcript will look like for the students who are seeing this paper for the first time. Okay, so transcript for interview held between you and Java. Java is the computer engineer, the CEO of the DCS company, and also he's the CEO. Okay, so you are saying, who are you? If you forgot that who are you, go back and check yourself. You are Hoi Louis. From Danny Lemon. Okay. You're the consultant. Okay. So thank you very much, Mr. Pryor, for showing me around the offices and factory. I found your staff and their comments very interesting. First of all, could I ask you to tell me how much would you describe How would you describe how your company is structured and managed? So now the Java is saying, I would describe DCS as a fairly highly centralized. I suppose in management speak, we would describe the DCS management structure as a functional bureaucracy. Okay, so it's a functional bureaucracy, highly centralized. We prefer not to allow too much managerial or departmental autonomy for their own. Okay, prefer not too much managerial or departmental autonomy for their own good of cause. Okay, because it is highly centralized, to ensure that they are in the best interest of DCS and to avoid irresponsible risk taking, which unfortunately has happened occasionally in the past. So we expect the middle managers to respect and respond positively to senior management requests or directives, and not to question them unless they are sure for their facts. This is probably a legacy from a pre-flotation area. Okay, legacy from a pre-flotation era. So where most of the strategic deal was always desired by me and my closest senior directors, most of whom were my family and trusted friends. You need this piece of information because you have to describe before and after flotation. Okay. You are asking, would you mind explaining how your company is directed by describing your corporate governance arrangements to me, please? Now you see the importance of corporate governance. I haven't taught you what is corporate governance. I will be making a video on that soon. Okay, so Java, yes, I can. Please look at this chart. So Java hands you an extract of the organizational chart described, represented below. So this is a chart. CEO and the chairman is the Java. Okay, marketing director, production, IT director, finance director, HR director, non-executive director. Okay. Now let's go to Java. Okay, you can see that this is a very long exhibit. So exhibit 2 needs time. Okay, so now exhibit. Okay, since 2006, DCS has been governed by a board of directors with me acting as the CEO and the chairman, giving me sufficient control to effectively direct the company and take strong leadership over the board, encouraging debate and driving the agenda. Okay, so the board comprises a marketing director. He was my original sales manager, employed by the company, who I have known for a long time now. We now have a production and IT director, Tony, who has been with the company for over 10 years. He has a strong background in data communication hardware component. Toshi is a finance director. He joined the company just before the company was listed on the National Stock Exchange. Trish Hopkins is a female HR director. And we also benefit from an independent non-executive member of the board. We were very fortunate to appoint Akther because he's a very talented businessman and also an executive director of one of our 2 largest suppliers. Can you see, when you see this board, can you see something? Out of the 5 directors, only 1 director is non-executive director. This is against the corporate governance rule, by the way. You are at least supposed to have 50% of executive and 50% of non-executive director on the board. And this is just 20% non-executive director. So something is not right with the corporate governance, right? Where were we? Okay. This means that he has a really good knowledge of a business and a data communication industry. Okay. So that is really useful background, Mr. Priya. So what about your standing corporate governance committees, which presumably report to the board? Okay. We have an audit committee constituted of 3 experienced network engineers who focus on investigating internal control and quality failures when they arise. So we have an audit committee. The keyword is this. Audit committee with 3 experienced network engineers, because audit committee should have non-executive director. At least 1 director who have a financial experience or skills, right? But here when you see the audit committee, all 3 are experienced network engineers. Again, there is a fault there. Okay. So to promote more independence, we have also appointed a non-executive director as chairman on this committee, who is a former compliance officer at an airport, whose background is in air traffic control and aviation regulation, but she's also a telecommunication expert. What about risk committee? And do you have any nomination or remuneration committee? We haven't I haven't made a video on the types of committee, but soon I will be making in the future. There are 4 types of committee: audit, risk, nomination, and remuneration committee. We'll be explaining in detail how they function, what are the advantages and all. But for now, just know that there are 4 types of committee. Okay. Risk committee, nomination and remuneration. So, okay, let's see what happens. Okay, so DCS has no separate board appointed risk, remuneration or nomination committee. This is very, very important from the point of corporate governance. No risk, no remuneration, no nomination committee. All strategic and long-term planning initiatives are initiated and decided upon by the main board led by myself, and of course our management structure and culture is such that we embed risk management through having that close control over staff that I mentioned to you previously. As for salary, we strongly believe that all board members should be on a fixed salary. Fixed salary is important. Maybe for the remuneration package, right? To encourage them to take a longer term perspective rather than rewarding them with the short term performance bonuses. So that's what they believe, right? Now, as for recruitment, remuneration, and succession planning is concerned, I personally approve and manage all middle to senior staff recruitment and staff promotion. So there's no need for formal induction process for our directors or senior management. No formal induction process for directors or senior management. Again, it's an issue. You need to have a formal induction process. Now that you are a listed company, how do you report to and engage with your shareholders, particularly institutional shareholders? DCS does not have a special governance or reporting structure to engage with shareholders. Again, does not have special governance or reporting structure to engage with shareholders. Being a limited company, you should have, right, including institutional shareholders, but of course we do meet our minimum company law obligations in relation to statutory reporting to shareholders, shareholder democracy, voting and other constitutional rights. Okay, that was all very useful, Mr. Priya, what I would like now is more data on the overall performance of DCS and a copy of the October board report, which I know was considering the strategic option facing DCS. Certainly, I will ask Tosh model to send you a summarized integrated reporting data attached on a spreadsheet. I will also ask the marketing director to send you the board report for October. Thank you very much, Mr. Priya. So that's it. This talks about mostly about employees, the governance, the corporate structure and all, and the committees. Right now, Exhibit 3. So this is an extract of the integrated report from 2012 to 15. Okay, from the finance director. All the financial reports are given and all these figures are in million, dollar million, right? So the financial periods are given, right? So just we'll see from 2012 to 15 what's happening with the sales revenue. Okay, now if you see that from 2012 to 2015, can you see how the sales revenue increased from 4.75 to 6.95? Even the cost of sales is increasing. But if you see here, the problem comes, just your gross profit is reduced, right? It increased, remained same, again it reduced in 2015. What happened? You need to investigate this. This is your job. Why it reduced, right? Overhead expenses, let's go. Overhead expenses reduced. Profit before tax and finance cost slightly increased. Finance cost increased. Tax expense reduced. And profit for the year reduced drastically. Just see 0.54 and 0.15. Right? Now let's go to other data. So this is how when you are given a financial performance, what you have to do is you just have to analyze, quick analyze like this. You are not calculating any ratios at this moment and all that you will do when you have to write an answer, right? So just the what we have done slightly, we just saw from 2012 to 15 what happened to sales, what happened to gross profit, what happened to net profit and expenses. So these four things are important: your sales revenue, gross profit, expenses and profit. So you can see that, like on your right side you can write sales revenue decline, this one increased, that one decreased, this one increased, like that. You can just write, just you can show an arrow. For example, I want to write here. Okay. Okay. I'm not able to do it now, but okay. Here I can cite increase. Okay. So I can just write like that. Increase, decrease, increase, decrease, like that. Right? So on the right side, you can write increase, decrease, increase, decrease. So that when you have to make calculations and all, you'll be very quick to analyze. Now let's go to the other data. Some are financial, some are non-financial. Okay. So now number of employees, you can see it reduced from 150 to 127. Staff turnover increased from 4 to 10%. Okay. Percentage of orders which are delivered late also increased. It's a problem. Red sign. Right. From 5 to 10%. Forward contract order book, number of orders reduced from, okay, so let me put a cross. Uh, can you see this? It reduced from 3505 to 2500. Now you have to see why it reduced. Customer complaints increased from 1.5 to 3.4%. Bad. Employee satisfaction survey score reduced from 72 to 61%. Again, it's a bad thing. Investment in non-current manufacturing equipment as a percentage of sales revenue reduced from 10 to 7%. R&D expenditure reduced from 6 to 3%, and carbon emission increased from 60 to 80%. So overall, if you have to summarize this, it's not a good thing from the other data you are saying, right? There are so many things which is not good. You need to identify why. So you just see it does I think maybe around 4 to 5 minutes it took me just to analyze this whole thing. It doesn't require so much of time. So whenever you are given a financial information, quickly just go through this. No need to do any ratios and all. You don't have to calculate any ratios. Any detailed calculations is not needed at this stage because you don't know what you have to calculate, but just briefly go through and just see what's happening. Okay, now let's go to exhibit 4. So the October board report for the DCS company. Okay, strategic overview. Okay, introduction. This report is based on information obtained from all the executive director of DCS under several main headings. The report highlights risk, opportunities, and future outlook for DCS. It also focuses on strategy and resource allocation, highlighting a key strategic decision which the board will need to make in the near future. Now let's go. The good thing about report. This is how can you see how this report is given. One thing also you can learn is how you have to write a report. So through these things, I'm going to explain you two things. First, how to write a report. Can you see how they have given written a report? This is how you have to write a report when they tell you to write a report. You have to have this thing. This is all these things needs to be there in your report. First, you have to write a heading for your report. Then you have to write to whom you're writing, from whom, like who you are, and your post, your name and your post, like how they have given, from whom. Jules, and who is Jules? A marketing director. You have to write the subject. Keep your subject very all the keywords there. Your subject should not be too long. It should be short, but it should be to the point, so that just by looking at the subject before, because no one opens the report in full and read, but your subject has to be the words. By just reading your subject, person should be able to know what is there in the report. For example, now the subject is strategic overview. Now I know what is there, right? It's just 1 or 2 words. Strategic overview of which company? DCS company, and the date. And then start your report with the introduction. So they have given the introduction, and always write your reports in headings, like put a subheading. Don't just write report all in one paragraph, right? Or just put separate paragraphs but no headings, no subheadings is not a good report. So for example, this one, can you see this is in bold? This one is the subheading. Again, you can see under this there are 1, 2, 3. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3. There are 3 paragraphs and one paragraph. The first one is just one line. It's okay. It's completely okay to write one line for one paragraph. It's not a must that you have to write at least 10 sentences or 10 lines in one paragraph. Try to keep your paragraph 4 to 5 sentences or 4 to 5 lines. Can you see this report? It's not too lengthy, just 4 to 5 sentences or 4 to 5 lines per paragraph. It could be even less than that, but don't try to keep very lengthy. Your paragraph should not be so lengthy. Okay, and there are 3 paragraphs under this subheading. Again, there's a subheading, this one, and then again there are paragraphs. Can you see? This is how your report should look like when you have to write a report and a memo. So through this report, through this exhibit itself, I'm showing you how to write a report. So all of you who have this question, how to write a report and all, how to write a good report, effective report, I've given you all the points. This is how you have to write the report. Keep your sentences around 4 to 5 sentences or points per paragraph. Don't try to put more than that in one paragraph. Okay, now let's see. Okay, so let's read the first subheading. Okay, that is risks and opportunities. Okay, what are the specific risks and opportunities which affect TCS abilities to create value over the short, medium, and long term? How is the organization dealing with them? Let me highlight this so that later if I have to come to know, I know that it's about risks and opportunities. Okay, risk and opportunities. Okay. By 2014, the international market for the data communication components started to saturate and decline. 2014, international market for the data communication component. It's a keyword. It's very, very important. Okay. Mm. Okay. So now, for the supply, okay, and for the supply and the support of the contract for the specialized ID network management system, we are now finding it increasingly difficult and costly to maintain the required level of network support. It is getting harder to recruit high caliber staff to DCS. Okay. Getting harder. It is getting harder to recruit high caliber staff to DCS. Now, the headquarters of DCS, although modern site, is in geographical location which is unattractive for key personnel to relocate to. Okay. Our specialist in the system support side of the business, okay, This one. Our system in the system support side of the business are currently overstretched because many key staff have been headhunted or taken early retirement. Many key staff have been headhunted or taken early retirement. So this is important. Has been headhunted. Okay. Now let's go down. Leaders have until recently been quite willing to lend. Lenders have been until recently been quite willing to lend DCS additional long-term funds at a competitive interest rate, but are now tightening their credit lines to the company and placing covenant on us to keep financial gearing within acceptable level. Okay, tightening the credit lines. Okay. So now they are tightening the credit lines. Okay. They are also increasing their interest rates to compensate for the additional financial risk. So also they are increasing. Okay. They're increasing their interest rates to compensate for the additional financial risk. It is unlikely that any future growth or investment can be financed from further debt, right? And we will need to use our considerable cash reserves or utilize internally generated funds. Currently, DC has a geared cost of equity capital to 12%. So the geared cost of capital is 12%. All right. Now let's go to the future outlook. Let's see, this is quite a long exhibit. In fact, this is the longest exhibit. Okay, because it's a report. So future outlook. What are the challenges and the uncertainties is DCS likely to encounter in pursuing his strategy, and what are the potential implications for his business model and future performance? So the challenges and uncertainties. Okay. DCS currently manufactures approximately 50% of all the data communication components used in its own products. The rest of the complete component, including semiconductor microprocessor, are bought in from two multinational global suppliers. So this supplier have since 2006 became the key players in the market through a succession of acquisitions and mergers. Where previously there were many more suppliers, all with a much smaller market share. So suppliers are the key players. Previously there have been more, but now there are just two global suppliers on which they are reliant. Okay. Recently, senior production problems have resulted from periodic component shortages from this key supplier. So because they are relying on only two key suppliers, there is a periodic component shortages, creating significant delays in manufacturing, assembly, and customer deliveries. So these are the reasons why. because they are relying, okay, so there's a serious production problems from periodic component shortages, right? So that's why there's a delay. Now you can relate to their financial information which they have given, why there's a delay and why there's a customer complaint. Can you see how you're linking the two exhibits? You're using this and the previous exhibit. So one of our recently acquired OEM customers accounts for 40% of our sales in this area. Okay. OEM customers, 40% of our sales in this area. Okay, now let's go to the next para. Okay, the marketing focus for 2016 and beyond indicate stronger growth from the supply and the sales support for specialized IT management services to currently installed networks in the domestic financial sector rather than from the manufacture of the component to aim for the installation of new networks to the large companies. The other potential growth area is in the providing cloud computing and big data analytics capability to the SME sector. So what are the other growth area is for cloud computing and big data analytics. Including DCS, there are currently only 3 companies which provide the specialized services. Including DCS, only 3 companies which provides cloud computing and big data analytics capability. Now let's go to the strategy and resource allocation. Where does DCS want to go and how does it intend to get there? As executive directors, we need an appropriate strategy for the next 3 to 5 years. On current trends, we are looking at approximately a 10% year-on-year decline in our revenues for the next 3 years. This is a statement given by the executive director. That's a key thing here. You have to question these assumptions. How are they saying that there's a 10% year-on-year decline in revenues for the next 3 years? Right? You have to question this. At this forthcoming board meeting, we need to discuss and decide on the best strategy for us as a company. We need to decide between 2 strategies. What are the 2 strategies? Read very carefully. Do we realign the business to make it less reliant on high volume, low margin component segment? And reallocate resources, right? So the second is realigned. The first strategy is realign to make it less reliant on high volume and low margin. And second one is or you reallocate resources from the data communication segment into this higher added value sector of network management and support. So the second one is reallocate from this to the higher added value sector of network management and support. To do this, we will need to further exploit. It's under that red line. I think you can see it clearly. Okay. To do this, we will need to further exploit technologies such as cloud computing and in particular big data analytics, which seem to offer lower cost data storage. So cloud computing and big data analytics, the advantages are okay. What are the advantages? I think you have to make a presentation or something like that. One of the requirements asked. Low cost storage, better understanding of customer preference. You need all this, right? Better understanding of customer preferences and ability to develop more bespoke products and services. Big data analytics. To develop more bespoke products and services. All these are possible because of big data and cloud computing. Alternatively, should we refocus? Okay. So first, I'm sorry, reallocate is not the second, it is the first strategy itself. Realign and reallocate is one. And second is Should we refocus on our core capability in the data communication component manufacturing area where we have such expertise, experience, and where most of our turnover is currently generated? So refocusing on the core capability, which is data communication component, right? So refocus on core capability. Okay, so there are two strategies. Now let's go to the conclusion. This is how when you write a report, you have to write a conclusion also. So the DCS board should now evaluate the risks and opportunities and take a key decision. DCS also needs to consider how it will implement its chosen strategy and how it will finance it. See further information below. So this is how they will finance it. Okay, focused. Okay, tangible benefits and cost resulting from various potential scenarios. In 2015, we have estimated that the net cash contribution from the data communication component segment of the business is 1.55 million. Okay, very important. Data communication component. Okay. Yes. I'm sorry, I don't know why am I not able to make it. Is 1.55. Okay, and the net cash contribution from the network supply and support is 0.85 million. Can you see it's very less compared to the data communication? All these are financial data. You need financial information. Always highlight the numbers and all. So these are after interest and tax. Okay, the expectation is the total cash flow contribution will continue to decline by about 10% each year we do nothing. So this is an assumption, you can say. If we do nothing, I'm sorry for this inconvenience, but I don't know why I'm not able to highlight. Do nothing. Okay, now let's go to the refocus strategy. We can implement this strategy by reorganizing our sales and support teams, making manufacturing cost efficiencies, and targeting our data. So, okay, we can implement this strategy by reorganizing our sales and supports team, making manufacturing cost efficiencies. So that means you're using your sales and support teams to manufacture, right? Making manufacturing cost efficiencies and targeting a data communication component customers more effectively. So you're using those team, the sales and the support team, to target the data communication customers, right? If we are successful, we estimate that we can at least maintain the total cash contribution of DCS at the current level of 2.4 million for the next 3 years. So at least maintain the cash of this one. Okay, now let's go to the realignment strategy. With the realignment of the business towards the network supply and the support segment, the net cash contribution from the communication component sector is forecast to decline by 10% per year for the following 3 years. Same here, will decline by 3 years. Decline. Okay. This is regardless of how the net cash contribution from the network and the IT system support business is expected to grow under any of our assumptions. Okay. Now, the focused annual fixed cost and working capital savings from the decline in the data communication manufacturing area expected to be 0.35 million from general cost. Okay, so the focused, it is So it is 0.35 million from general cost and will also result in annual carbon tax cost savings of 0.15 million, giving a total saving of 500,000 per annum for the next 3 years. Note that this forecast savings are independent of which growth focus below emerges. Right? So whatever happens to the growth focused, the savings will be 500,000 only. Table 1. Table 1 below shows the projected growth in the cash flow from the network supply and support segment in the next 3 years, the additional fixed cost of this investment, and the savings to be made in the data communication division should the realignment additional investments takes place. So alternative growth focused for DCS company under the realignment strategy. Realignment strategy and the probabilities for the growth. Right? So you can see what's happening to the cash contribution. Okay, additional cash contribution. The first line, additional cash contribution from the network supports business will grow by 25% each year for the next 3 years. And then additional cash contribution from network support business will grow by 15. So they are assuming different growth rates. And they are, based on that, they are predicting the cash flows, the fixed costs, and the savings. Right? Additional cash contribution where they are assuming in the first it will grow by 25%, then next is 15%, then next is 10%. Right? So we'll be using this information later when we do the calculations. Okay. Now let's go to Exhibit 5. And Exhibit 6. Okay. So Exhibit 5 is an evaluation of strategy choices facing DCS company. You asked your colleague Freddie Lithium to evaluate the alternative strategies based on the information contained in the October board report. Freddie has now given his work in the spreadsheet below. So this is using payback method. You have to be good with your financial management. Now you see why you need the other papers knowledge and this paper. They are using a payback method. Right? You are not expected to calculate any detailed calculation, but at least you have to know something. You cannot be going to the exam hall and knowing nothing about payback, knowing nothing how it is calculated. At least you should know how to analyze, right? So okay, so now let's see strategy evaluation for DCS using payback method. Strategy 1, which is refocus, and strategy 2 is realignment. So by using refocus, okay, the total cash contribution is 1.55, right? We have seen there, in fact, we have seen this, that it's 1.55, okay, and the network supply and support, the total for the strategy 1 they have given from 2015 to 18, and under realignment strategy they have based on the 3 growth 25, 15, 10%, right? Also the probability they have calculated, and they got the expected value from the network growth. Expected value, they have just multiplied this probability, right? This probability by this, all this figure, and they have got, and they have add all the 3 at 25, 15 and 10%. And then the data communication. Right? The 10% decline from 1.55. Then they have got the total cash contribution and the incremental cash contribution. They have also given here how they have done the work. Like for 4, they have done 2 plus 3. That is expected value and the data communication. And the incremental cash is 4 minus 1. The total cash contribution from strategy 2 minus the total for strategy 1, this one. Additional annual fixed cost based on expected growth. So here they have given you the expected value of additional fixed costs, the cash fixed cost savings, and the net cash additional fixed costs, and also the incremental cash contribution and incremental cash fixed cost. And then they have compared with strategy 1, the strategies 2, the incremental net cash contribution. And the cumulative payback is 2 years and 11 months. They have calculated it, so you don't have to calculate back. Don't try to calculate back. Most of the people I have seen, the mistake they do, the time they waste is they try to calculate the expected value, the incremental cash, the payback. No need to calculate, it is already calculated for you, so don't waste your time doing it again. The only thing you have to do is you have to use that information. You have to assume that whatever they have prepared is correct. That's it. You're not here to calculate again and see whether what they have done is correct or not, whether it's wrong or not. That's not your job. Your job is to analyze. You are in the big position now. You are a management consultant. Your job is not to go and calculate payback period or go and calculate incremental cash, net cash, the expected value. It is not. What they have done it right. Now you have to use that information to analyze which strategy you should go for, 1 or 2. That's it you have to do. So don't try to calculate again. Now let's go to the exhibit 6, and this is the last exhibit. Okay. And it's a note from the meeting. So note from the middle management focus group meeting. Having read the integrated reporting data about and studying the transcript of the conversation you had with Java, you needed more background information about some of the key issues which had come to your attention. You therefore invited a representative team of managers to focus a group meeting and asked them key questions from which the following comments were noted. Code 1, code 2, code 3. There are 4 codes in total. Let's go. First quote from a management accountant in the finance directorate. Okay. When undertaking capital investment appraisal, we had a strict policy of evaluating investments or projects over a maximum of 3 years and to ignore the cash flows beyond that date. To ensure that any investment we must pay back within that time period. This ensures that we do not accept unviable projects. Okay. That is code 1. We highlight it. Okay, so we have a strict policy of evaluating investments over 3 years and we ignore the cash flows beyond that date. So that is their policy. Now let's go to 2. From an engineer in the network supply division. What really annoys me is the fact that in 2011, the CEO and the HR director introduced an annual staff survey. Although they promise anonymity, their survey required us to give details of our age, ethnicity, length of service, and department in which we were employed. I was called to a meeting last year by the production manager who implicitly threatened me and made comments such as, if you don't like working here, why not look for another job? Very important. Right, it was made very clear to me that this meeting was private and was to be kept confidential. I was not permitted to discuss the existence or outcomes of these meetings with other members of staff, or there would be consequences. Now let's go to the third one. From a technician in the data communication component division. I feel the staff satisfaction survey was designed in a way which dissuaded negative feedback, and key issues known to be concern of staff obtained from the informal grapevine were deliberately omitted from the survey questions. Can you see the negative comments are omitted from the survey questions? Staff, right? very important that you know. Okay. In addition, the way the results were presented by the managers and the visual graphics used seemed to play down the negative feedback and concentrated only on the positive factor. Yes. For example, emphasis was made on how well staff regarded their own performance and that of their team members, which seemed to have more favorable feedback. Compared with other questions about confidence in the leadership of the company, I didn't think this presented a true picture of our feelings. So they were not quite happy with the way they are presented and all, right? The positive comments are highlighted and the negative feedbacks are omitted. They are not shown. Now the last one. From a sales support engineer, we are rushed off our feed due to key staff leaving. Our sales area are getting larger and it's difficult to get around to all our customers. Very, very, very important point. Because remember there why your gross profit margin is reducing, why customer complaints are increasing, why the staff turnover are reducing in your financial report. That's why this point is very important here. When you see there are many exhibits, you will always see there are some links between the exhibits. You will not see one exhibit which is very totally different from something will be there to support that financial statistics or some numbers in some other exhibit you will get. So this is that one. Due to staff leaving, our sales are getting larger. Sales area is difficult to get around to all our customers. Very important. That's why there are late deliveries to customers. Customer complaints are increasing. If you remember the financial, I think it was in exhibit 3 or 4. Okay, so this means that we are having difficulty getting our orders on time and often late to appointments. Okay. Although sales productivity might be improving, because fewer of us are covering a greater geographical area, customers are not as satisfied as they used to be and are making more complaints. Very important. The financial information showed that the percentage of customers satisfied was 72. Now it is 61 from 2012 to 15. After this meeting, you went back to your office, scheduled a meeting in the following week with Danny and Freddie to start preparing the consultancy report findings for DCS company. So that's it. The end of the question paper. So the answers are given. In my next video, I will be going through the answer. I will be explaining, I will be showing you how the answer is framed, what are the things you have to avoid, what are the things you should not write in the answer, what are the things compulsory you have to put in your answer, which makes a difference between a pass or a fail. Right? I will show you the difference. What are the differences between a paper, a good paper and a bad paper? Like, I mean, the way a good candidate will write an answer, a passing candidate and a one who is failing. So that's it. And time yourself. I have taken more time here. It exited 1 hour because I'm stopping in between. I have to explain, I have to highlight, so it's taking time. But when you read, try to put it around 40 to 45 minutes. Because you also need 10 to 15 minutes for reading your requirements and introduction. The first 10 to 15 minutes will go there. So the next 40 to 45 minutes should be for your reading all the exhibits, and then that means it should add up to 1 hour. Because 1 hour you are just planning, you are just reading, or not writing anything. After that 1 hour is passed, you have 3 hours to go and then you start writing the answer. Now you have a plan, you know what to write. You have your exhibits, you know what are the things you have highlighted already. So that's it. So now we have gone through all the exhibits. The final stage is writing answers. So please watch my next video also on how to write an answer. Because no matter whatever the techniques you apply, whatever the strategies you have, you might be having the best notes, you will be having the best idea, you will be having the best tactics, right? But the moment, if you don't put it all your techniques, all your ideas, all your creative ideas to pass and all this, that, right? You may be having so much of things. Your time management is good, everything is good. But if you're not putting that into practice, if you're not writing an answer, you're just going through an answer, you're just reading an answer, then I'm sorry to say that you are not going to pass. You are not going to pass. Guaranteed you are not going to pass. You have to write an answer. A 4-hour paper. 4-hour means 4 hour. Straight 4 hour. There is no shortcut for that. There is no shortcut to success. The path to success is always hard work, dedication, persistence, patience in needs. Everyday practice you need. Every day do one question. Every day attempt one question. For SBL, time is very near. Exams are just not even a month. I think less than a month. Time is there for your exams. Now is not the time for you to go through your technical knowledge and study your content, go and study your textbook. That time is gone. Now it's time for you to practice, put all those knowledge into practice. Now is the time for you to touch your revision kit, your mocks, the mocks in the revision kit. Now is the time for you to do the past paper. This is the golden opportunity you have. Utilize this time very effectively, very efficiently. Nothing can stop you from failing, provided you do your part well. My part I have done, right? I'm doing my part, but just seeing my video is not enough. Just listening to me is not enough for you to pass. You can have so much of knowledge, you can have so much of ideas, you can have so much of your techniques and everything, but provided that you use it, you have to use it. Don't just read an answer, because I know many of you do this. Try to do that shortcut thinking. SBL is very easy. SBL, yes, SBL is very easy paper when you study, but not when you come to write an answer. SBL is the hardest paper when you come to write an answer, because this is not a paper where you carry your knowledge and you know some theory and you use that theory in the scenario. That's not this paper. This is a paper where you have to think out of the box. Most of the time you have to use your creative side, you have to use your thinking, you have to use your imagination. I would say imagination. You have to imagine yourself in many different roles, as a sales manager, as a finance director, as a customer, as a staff, as a government. Many positions you have to play. You have to know how to deal. You're a business leader. That's why the name of this paper is Strategic Business Leader. It's SBL, right? Strategic Business Leader. You have to think as a business leader. You're not a technician. Technician is a person who is expert in only one thing. So who is very skilled in only one thing, right? For example, a doctor who is specialized, an eye doctor, will only know how to treat eyes, any issues with eyes. A dentist will only know how to treat the problems with your toothache and replacing your teeth and all those stuff. He will not know any other stuff. So likewise, this is a hard paper, because this is not a paper where you have to know only one skill. This is a paper where you have to know multiple skills, because this is a strategic business leader. You are an entrepreneur, you are a business leader. You have to know all the area for you to be a successful business leader. So you have to know every aspect of this. So practice. Your exams are near. Practice till your exam comes, and best of luck for your exam. I really wish you all the best for the upcoming exam in December, right? And I really wish all of you really pass. All of you, whoever is going to attempt this December, and whoever is going to for whom this is a repeat, right? You're repeating this paper. Best of luck to all of you. My wishes are there with you, right? But do the hard work, right? And best of luck. Practice all the techniques whatever I explained in this video, because I take a great effort out of my time to help you guys. So please utilize this, right? And thank you so much for liking my video, sharing my video, watching my video. And do watch my next video, upcoming video, which will be about the answer. Best of luck.